Very sloppy work from Blake Lively's lawyers, I have to say. I'm sure they spoke about me a few times already. Hi and welcome to Flow Some Talk. I'm Shashti Flo, and here on my channel I talk about my good and bad experiences in Hollywood working as an entertainment reporter, and as you know, a lot about Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively's legal drama. So today there is another hit piece on creators, including myself, in the New York Times. This is an op-ed written by someone called Ket Ten Barge. She's interviewing a feminist YouTuber called Ofidoki, who I spoke about here on my channel before. She's the one who I caught in stealing all my content and monetizing over at her channel. She was streaming 5 hours of all my interviews, my whole life work here on YouTube. She streamed it on her channel, putting advertising on it and making money out of it. She is the feminist that they're interviewing here, and that was also interviewed in The Guardian 2 months ago or something, when she was also the feminist who came up with this new term to describe what we're all doing. She's calling it the misogyny slop ecosystem, where she's calling out all creators and mommy sleuths, saying that we are just recycling each other's content and making money on it and making anti-Blake Lively content. I just find it so interesting that they only have one source in these stories, and it's the same woman that actually stole from me that they're using. I think that just says it all on who these people are and how they're expecting all of us to buy their narrative without any facts or evidence. They're saying, if you don't believe Blake Lively, you're anti-feminist. If you don't believe Blake Lively, you're anti-women, and you are a woman hater and a misogynist. And for me, that's as if I am a woman hater, then I have to hate myself. I don't hate myself, thankfully. I have to say also in regards to this, what I find interesting is that they're saying that there are far-right content creators like Candace Owens and Megyn Kelly. They're always pointing out those, but they can't put me in a box, which makes it a little bit challenging for them. And by calling me a woman hater, that also makes it so ridiculous, because 80% of my audience are women, are female. So that doesn't really make any sense either. So Ofidoki, as I said, is quoted here. She doesn't even have a real name. That's also, I found so brave, that you don't even put your own name. You just have like this alter ego called Ofidoki. Anyway, she's saying here that she calls it the misogyny slop ecosystem, in which pop culture sleuths on TikTok and Reddit gossip hounds like Perez Hilton, and even the press junket reporter Shashti Flo, whose awkward 2016 interview with Miss Lively exploded on YouTube last August. Awkward interview? I've never heard anyone call it awkward. It was just plain rude. And if you can't even admit to that, you can't even admit that she was rude to me in that interview. To me, that just says it all, because there is a reason why my interview went viral. People were reacting to it. People called out Blake Lively as a bully. And now these women are making me the bully because I called out another bully. And that's feminism. And this self-proclaimed feminist Ofidoki, who has a YouTube channel where she calls out other female creators, that's mostly what she does, calling out other women that don't agree with her, that never had a beef with her. She just points out other women to just call them out. She even had a headline on the video, one of the many videos she made about me, saying Shashti Flo, a mean girl, attacking another woman just because you don't agree with her. And they're talking about how we are discouraging other women from speaking out. I will tell you what's discouraging other women to speak out, other women that are actually real victims. That's watching a rich actress use and hijack Me Too for revenge, and then getting the New York Times to spin it as bravery. So she can call all of us bullies. At the same time, Blake Lively's team is using subpoenas to harass journalists and content creators into silence. The interesting part here is that there's absolutely nothing new in this story. She doesn't come with any new ideas or thoughts. It's just exactly the same as that other person wrote for The Guardian. So she doesn't even have her own ideas. This just seems like it came straight from Leslie Sloan's office. Of course, Kat Ten Barge didn't contact me for comment, in true spirit of the New York Times, who never reached out to me to ask for comment when they write about me. And Kat is doing that as well here, as a true journalist, as she calls herself here. And she is accusing me of here pumping out weekly or even daily anti-lively content that nets millions of views and sometimes are even picked up by outlets like the Daily Mail. So I'm going to continue pumping out content here as she's accusing me of. So this is for you, Kat. Tan Barge, maybe you can learn some critical thinking, and maybe you can learn looking at some facts and take some evidence into consideration before you say that all women should believe all women, and calling the rest of us that don't believe things when there is no evidence to back it up, that we are misogynist, because we're not. I love women. I have so many amazing women in my life, and I have so many amazing women here on my channel. So let's have this episode in celebrating all you amazing women out there who support women, who support men, who support human beings that are good and nice and decent and transparent and honest. Talking about that, so this is a tip I received from another woman. Glenda, thank you again so much for sending me such amazing research. So I partly reported on this the other day when I spoke about Ryan Reynolds and Maximum Efforts and the disastrous PR and marketing campaign that they run for It Ends With Us, and how Ryan Reynolds felt that he had to blame someone for it because he needed to protect his relationship with Paramount that he had signed so many new deals with for Maximum Effort, not only to produce movies, but also be responsible for their marketing and PR campaigns. So there was a lot of stake here for Ryan Reynolds. Also, it turns out there is some other stuff going on there, including Blake Lively. So you might not remember this movie, because I don't think many people do, because it was a disaster. It was called The Rhythm Section. I actually do remember watching it. It was with Blake Lively and Jude Law. It was an epic disaster movie, and it was produced by Paramount. So at this point, Blake Lively had cost Paramount a lot of money. The loss for that movie, I think, was estimated to be around 30 or 40 million dollars. They were kind of hoping it would be this like new female James Bond franchise. It was even Barbara Broccoli producing it, the producer behind the James Bond movies. And they were pushing it that way. They were spending a lot of money on it. There were a lot of delays with this movie because Blake Lively hit her hand. She harmed her hand. So the production was 6 months delayed because of that. And then the movie hit theaters and it was a complete bomb. Some people said that Blake Lively's performance was good, but no one really liked the movie. In 2020, there was this article in Deadline called saying what went wrong with the rhythm section and how it lost $30 million. You could tell that there was something wrong with the rhythm section as early as April, when Paramount didn't include the title in its CinemaCon reel of then intended big picks like Terminator, Dark Fate, and Gemini Man. So keep in mind that at this point, Blake Lively already cost Paramount a lot of money, and Ryan Reynolds had a lot of stakes with his deal with Paramount. And of course, if Maximum Effort did a terrible job at promoting It Ends With Us, that really put his deal with Paramount at risk. On top of that, Blake Lively got the blame for the bad PR and marketing. So it was, of course, really important for her too to make sure to blame all the backlash on someone else. As we know, she said that Sony pushed her into promoting the movie as a light, fun chick flick kind of thing, which was one of the big things that backfired at her. Also, at the same time, she was promoting her hair products, as you know, and Betty Boos and Betty Buzz. And all of those campaigns also failed. That doesn't look good for Maximum Efforts. They have so many failed campaigns, and Blake Lively has been involved in a few of them, also making Blake Lively look pretty bad. It says here in the Deadline article, the rhythm section reps Blake Lively's lowest wide opening at the domestic box office at 2.8 million. It's an Unfortunate setback for the former Gossip Girl alum, who's proved herself to be bankable on a global basis with A Simple Favor and The Shallows. It also says in this article, then in post-production, I understand that Morano, Lively, and Ian Morano was the director here, all clashed on what the final product should be, with the latter's vision winning out. Lively wasn't a producer on a rhythm section. Uh, so yes, she probably got involved here as well, having her opinion, wanting to have her opinion heard on what the movie should look like. That article is from 2020, so this is way before any of this happened with It Ends With Us, obviously. There is another record held by the rhythm section. It says here as well, it's also the lowest opening ever for a movie debuting in 3,000 plus theaters. That's bad. As also Glenda mentions in her email, that Blake Lively was going to make her directorial debut to adapt the novel The Seconds with Searchlights, who are owned by Disney. And what we know about Ryan and Disney, I wonder what happened to this deal. There is a story here in Variety talking about how Blake Lively is signed up to direct an adaptation of Seconds from the Edgar Wright script. I couldn't find any more information on that. This is from April 2022, so I don't know if this deal just fell through or if it's not going to happen. And if you look at Blake Lively's IMDb page, it doesn't say anything about Seconds there. It only says 2 pre-production movies, that there's no like crew or any other cast members attached to any projects, and then you have The Husband's Secret, which is in development. So it doesn't look like really Blake Lively has much in the pipeline. Then Glenda points out here, so Ryan failed at the movie marketing of It Ends With Us. Blake failed at Betty Buzz, Betty Booze, and Blake Brown marketing, while she also failed with the marketing and delivery and execution of the campaign for It Ends With Us. That's a bad look for a renewal contract with Paramount for Ryan, yes. And that also, as she's saying, pointing out here, makes sense why she blamed Sony and why she blamed Justin Baldoni. And as we just learned a few months ago, Ryan Reynolds' next movie that was supposed to be with Sony, and they sold it, I think, to Warner Bros. That movie was delayed. It was supposed to premiere in October 10th, 2025, and it's been moved to May 2026, which is interesting. There's no reason for that. I think people or the industry now is being very careful about pushing products with Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively. Glenn also mentions here how Paramount is funding Ryan's new script, Boy Band, who he's doing with Hugh Jackman. He was directed by Sean Levy. The whole boys group is together. So, of course, they need more goodwill from Paramount. She also mentions here that that story has already been done in Australia in 2006. There was a movie based on the exact same thing of a boy band who came together after like 20 years and tried to start up their band again. And this is exactly what, and that movie was called Boy Town. And she's pointing out he probably stole the idea. The movie bombed in Australia. And looking at what Ryan Reynolds' movie is supposed to be about, it's exactly the same concept. It says here that he's working on a movie titled Boy Band, which will focus on the reunion of aging pop stars. Basically, same thing. He envisions it as a redemption story for former boy band members who are now in their 40s and 50s. All right. On top of that, there's some new filings back and forth. Another filing that I am mentioned in, you guys. Oh my God, it's never ending. Okay, so this is 2 TAG members or 2 former or employees of TAG. TAG stands for Talent Agency Group, and it's Melissa Nathan's agency, the crisis management team that Justin Baldoni hired to help him as crisis managers during this crisis period. And 2 of the employees there, third parties, have been subpoenaed. They're not sued, they've just been subpoenaed. And Blake Lively is asking for so much stuff. It is insane. So she gave them like 150 words of everything that she wants. And they're like all this metadata she's asking for to try and find some dirt on herself. So they're going back and forth there. They say they need more time. And Blake Lively's team is saying, no, they won't give her more time. But I am mentioned here as one of the search words that they are looking for. And the funniest thing is they have misspelled my name. So they're saying Chatsi. chat see. If they search for that name, and I'm sure if they do, they're not going to find anything because that is a misspelling. Very sloppy work from Blake Lively's lawyers, I have to say. I'm sure they spoke about me a few times already, but they cannot spell my name. Yeah, it's spelled Kjersti, not TSI. Just for future references of subpoenas, you should change that. Yeah, here are some of the other words they're looking for: revenge, destroy, victim, nuts, worst, slut, strategy, Reddit, TikTok, boobs, affair, mean, cancel, weaponize. It's like, and of course, Popcorn Planet, Candace Owens, Scooter Braun, scenario documents. There's all diva, crazy, all these words. They're just like so desperately trying to find something. Blake Lively's team is just so desperate to spin this story into her being a victim, and that everyone that criticizes her are bullies. If they can't prove their smear campaign, which they won't, they will create an illusion of one. That's what they're trying to do here by finding and cherry picking little texts and emails here and there, just like they did in that New York Times expose article about Justin Baldoni and Wayfair. But here's the thing, Blake Lively, calling everyone a bully still does not make you a victim. It makes you look scared and desperate. Anyways, that's it from you guys. I hope you enjoyed this episode. There's more to come. I'm really on a roll today because I was so fired up by that stupid New York Times article. They keep mentioning me in those hit pieces on content creators and journalists, and I'm just so dumb. So yeah, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do and support my channel. And yeah, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any episodes of Blossom Talk. And I'll see you in my next one. Bye.